I'm Julia Atherley, Home Affairs Correspondent in the Sun newspaper. I'm currently in Arizona at the US border with Mexico. I'm right next to Trump's border wall, and I've been here to speak with US border agents who have told me exactly how they've brought the numbers of migrants crossing from Mexico into the United States down so dramatically. In Tucson, Arizona, in their sector, in the worst day in November 2023, they had 3,000 people who they had detained and were processing for coming across the border and crossing illegally. Nowadays, the worst day they could have is around 30 people. So speaking to the agents here, that's a combination of the rhetoric that's coming from Trump's presidency. He has been very clear that if you come here, you will be detained and you will be deported or you will be put in jail. And the second thing is this physical border wall, which is currently still under construction. It's 30 feet high. It's incredibly dangerous. I mean, if it weren't already dangerous enough trying to cross through the desert of Arizona, there is this 30-foot wall which is now in your way.
So some of the challenges is that we're in the middle of nowhere, right? There's no water, there's no food around here. And some of the challenges is that people come, when they cross illegally, then they go into very remote areas. Those remote areas, like I mentioned, there's no water, there's no food. So the challenge for them is to get to the nearest town. Some of these towns are either 10, 20, sometimes even 30 miles away. So it's gonna take them 3 to 4 days to walk to a place where they're gonna get picked up in a vehicle. So the challenge is for us to be able to apprehend them before they get in trouble. One of the problems is that when they cross illegally and they go through this type of terrain, because this is the desert terrain, is that they get lied to, that they said that they're only gonna walk one day, half a day, or one night. And in reality, they have to walk for days. And then they get in trouble, they call 911, and then we have to rescue them. So even though we're enforcing immigration laws, so it becomes from an enforcement stance, then it comes to a humanitarian effort to be able to save that person's life. 3-4 years ago, we were looking at hundreds, sometimes even thousands of people crossing the border illegally. As of right now, we probably see 10, 20 people a day that cross the border illegally. So it's a big difference. So not only is the messaging that if you come here illegally, the possibility of arrest is going to be certain, and also that if you come illegally, that you're not going to be able to stay. They're going to be applying the immigration laws that have been on the books for many, many years, and then you're going to be detained and or returned to your nation. And then another thing is the whole government approach, right? Because we have Border Patrol here, but we also have our military that are helping us reinforce the fence. As we saw earlier, they're putting concertina wire. And then also we have the military helping us with technology and also having more eyes. So military are not doing enforcing actions, but they are calling us whenever they see someone that cross illegally, or if they see something that is suspicious, then we can respond and do the law enforcement action. So yes, active patrols have increased quite a bit because we don't have agents doing just processing. On years past, when we had thousands of people coming illegally into the United States, all we did as agents was processing. So we will have women, children, adult males, elder people, and we would have to rapidly try to get them out of the elements because it's hot. So trying to get them back to our station, try to process them and turn them over to another. Now we have agents that are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're out here patrolling. They're out here in more numbers, out on the border trying to prevent people from crossing illegally.
I didn't like glasses.
To my west, on the bottom, we used to call soccer fields. And the reason why we call it soccer fields is because it's an area where back in the day, we couldn't patrol this area. And we have pictures, and you can Google it up, of Colonia Libertad and soccer field where this area was just full of people just staging and waiting for nighttime to continue to further themselves into the U.S. So we basically, during those days, we would only patrol that area. But this is where, when talking about bettering infrastructure and enhancing technology, and then boots on the ground, that whole combination makes it better, and it secures our border in a much better way, a force multiplier. So you guys see the primary, secondary fence, and then we have towers that have cameras, day and night cameras. We have sensors all over the area. So what we tell the people is that if you try to come in illegally, you will be detected and you will be apprehended, and then you will be held accountable for coming in illegally.
What you see here is a double border barrier. You see the primary border wall and the secondary border wall, and the reason we have this is the primary wall is to stop, just like any wall in a home, it's to stop the immediate threat, people just coming across, people, vehicles, anything from just easily making entry into the United States illegally. So that's the purpose of the primary wall, which is in most areas approximately 18 feet high. The secondary wall, you won't see that everywhere, but in areas like this where it's a more urban environment where the city's pretty close and there's easy access to roads and freeways, what it does is it buys our agents time to interdict people who do make it over the primary wall, and it allows them time to make an arrest. And so that's essentially what the area we're standing in between the two walls is what it's an enforcement zone. So it's designed to allow our agents in area to make an arrest without people easily getting away and getting further into the country. That being said, people do make it over the secondary wall, and when they do, our agents are there to stop them. We do that, and we interdict the threats and apprehend people. It's a combination of personnel, infrastructure like what you see here, and technology. So we have agents in the field, right, and highly trained. We have technology, everything from sensors, cameras, just a whole array of technology, and then infrastructure, what you see here. With the renewed focus on border security and on immigration, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the number of people attempting to illegally enter the country in the San Diego sector and across the border in a whole. But I'll speak more specifically to San Diego sector. Just to give you some context, in 2024, every day in our 60 miles of border, we are arresting anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people every single day. Now, today, we're averaging about 30 people a day in that same area. So really what it boils down to is just clear messaging and accountability, holding people accountable. When they decide to cross the border illegally and they break our laws of our nation, there's consequences. It may just be you're just going to get immediately deported. Even if you're seeking asylum or some sort of other relief, we're going to hold you, and you're not going to just get released. You're going to be held in detention until your case is adjudicated, right? If you're committing a criminal act or smuggling, or you're re-entering after you've been deported, we're going to try to prosecute you to the fullest extent possible. So accountability, maximum consequences, and then just shifting resources to enforcement areas along the border.
They may use vinyls, but they may also use drones or any other...
I'm currently inside a sewage tunnel which runs between Mexico and the United States. That yellow line that you can see behind me is the official border between Mexico and the US. Border Patrol agents patrol this tunnel 24/7 every single day of the year to ensure that it's not being used by cartels either smuggling people or narcotics. This tunnel during monsoon season will be completely full of water and unusable.
So from here and a quarter mile that way, that's where we see the majority of this quarter mile stretch of border is where we've found most of those tunnels. In our downtown area, we have border infrastructure, like wall infrastructure or fencing, and oftentimes they will use that, or they will go under it. We share a drainage system with Mexico, and that water flow flows north. And so what they do often is they will dig illicit tunnels into the man-made infrastructure to further smuggle things in the United States. So there's pictures of the border underground. We have gates down there to kind of control traffic. And then when there's a high flow of water, we have a monsoon season here in Arizona. So when the water flow is high or the runoff is high, those gates have brake pins that will break open and allowing the debris and water flow to come north. We treat sewage coming from Mexico here in the United States. So there is the IOI, which is a sewage pipe that comes from Mexico into the United States to the treatment facility, and they've used that as a smuggling method. So if you look over here, that pipe that comes north, they put narcotics into these tubes, put them into the sewage pipe, send it north, and then they fish it out with these grates. So they'll tap open the top of it somewhere north of the border, and then put those grates in and then fish out the dope loads. So that's one method they've used. There's been over 200 illicit tunnels found on the southwest border. Over half have been found here within a quarter-mile area of downtown Nogales. So it's something that we see frequently. We had one just about 3 or 4 weeks ago that was discovered. So the underground subterranean threat is real as far as smuggling. We patrol the underground infrastructure once a shift. So we send agents down into the tunnels, man-made tunnel system, once a shift to make sure that there's no breaches.
This part of the US-Mexico border is notorious for smuggling tunnels being used by the Mexican cartel. Over the last 30 years, more than 90 have been found in this area south of San Diego alone. And with the increased security of Trump's border wall and the more physical security along the border you can see behind me, they're expecting more and more of these tunnels to be found. Some of them are built all the way and they're dug all the way from Mexico to the US, and some of them tap into existing storm tunnels, which already exist for the flow of water between the two countries. And they're mainly used for narcotics. Some of them, in the last recent weeks, they've had people that have been smuggled through these drain tunnels, but the majority of them are being used to bring drugs from Mexico into the US.
The cartels are always trying to stay one step ahead. I don't know that I'd say they're successful, but you know, if we build a 30-foot wall, they'll build a 31-foot ladder. When we put up wire, they'll try to take it down. It's the same thing with tunnels, right? It's just a cat and mouse game. So we build a wall, they'll build tunnels. And they're really nothing new. They've been doing tunnels for a long time. Obviously, it's a very clandestine method, and they're primarily used for narcotics trafficking, not for humans. Not to say that they couldn't be used for people, but that's just not what we've seen historically. So San Diego sector has an area where there's a lot of warehouses and commercial activity in a specific we'll call it a geological area that's conducive, more conducive to digging tunnels. And so we do see a constant threat of tunnels, but we're pretty good at finding them, and we have a lot of technology that we use, and we leverage community resources, and we get out there, we talk to people, we gather information, we're always watching. So we have a whole task force with other agencies on it, including DEA and HSI, that's Homeland Security Investigations, that help us, and we work together to target the tunnel threat in our area. So it's a constant threat, but we're constantly working to get better and overcome it. And we've had a lot of success. We've interdicted over 90 tunnels in the past few decades. The last tunnel we found was not complete. We discovered it and interdicted it before it was completed. And this one was a more sophisticated tunnel, which was most likely for narcotics. They were gonna had metal tracks for like carts and stuff to move the narcotics back and forth, and lighting and ventilation. And so we were able to find it and shut it down before they completed it. But for every one we interdict, there's probably another one being constructed.
The UK is facing a small boats crisis. While the numbers are down compared to last year, there are still thousands of people willing to pay smuggling gangs for a space on a dinghy launched from the beaches of northern France. While the problems faced by the UK government are unique in circumstance, the issue of illegal migration is something faced by almost every country in the world. Since Donald Trump got elected for a second term, he declared a national emergency on their southern border. Strict, often very controversial crackdowns have seen the numbers of migrants trying to come to the US from Mexico decrease significantly. Behind me, you can see where Trump's border wall reaches the Pacific Ocean. The English Channel stretches for 21 miles between France and the UK, but down there you could try and swim 100 yards out to sea and then try and enter the US illegally. So I'm currently on board the US Coast Guard cutter in the San Diego Bay Area, and they're about to show us what they would do if they came across a migrant boat coming in from Mexico.
Yeah, in the last, I would say about 18 to 20 months, we've really seen a surge of Coast Guard assets come down to the southwest maritime border to really control the maritime border and its approaches. It's been hugely successful. We are seeing interdiction rates that we have not seen really ever in Coast Guard's history in this area. So the amount of different cutters, we have cutters coming from Alaska, from the Pacific Northwest. We have different aircraft flying to identify these smuggling attempts. And then closer to shore, we have more small boats that are patrolling near shore on a 24/7 basis. So we're seeing a lot more interdictions, really unprecedented success over the last 2 years. So this is all cartel-driven activity. This is illicit activity, so it has really disrupted their illicit business practices. It has hurt them in a way that's not beneficial to them. Obviously, they're trying to make money doing this at the expense of smuggling humans. And so it has disrupted some of their operations, and that's something we want to see. And it has also reduced the amount of search and rescue cases that have stemmed from these smuggling ventures. Safety of life at sea is still an enormous priority for the Coast Guard, and these human smuggling attempts on the water are extremely unsafe. So the more deterrence we can have out there, the more resources we can have out there to stop that is extremely critical.
So behind me, you can see the US Coast Guard simulating what would happen if they were intercepting a migrant boat coming in from Mexico. We had firecrackers being shot, which you can probably hear behind me right now. That's the warning shot. If they don't stop, that's what they're firing towards that boat.
One of these boats and we're chasing somebody on a jet ski, and think about how maneuverable a jet ski is, how agile it is, how fast it is, trying to keep up with that jet ski and try to interdict it. Very tough. Same thing with some of the pleasure crafts that we see. They usually have, sometimes they'll have 3 outboard engines. Very hard to stop those. They're very agile.